Well, welcome back to the Community Christian Podcast. We are in the middle of our series, Family vs. Reality, and I'm here with Justin. Justin, let's talk a little bit about this. Let's dig into family versus reality.
Yeah, it's family and reality. They go together. It's a challenge. We talked about conflict this week. You gotta love conflict. And so, if you had a rough ride home from church on Sunday, I apologize.
It's your fault. It's Justin's fault.
It is my fault.
You preached it, so
I know it's true. So I apologize if I was in the middle of your car ride home. Look, family's tough. It's a tough season. It stirs up a lot of emotions, a lot of history for a lot of us. One of the things that we talked about with any conflict is that there's a verse in Romans that says if it is at all possible, if you're in control of it, you should aim to live at peace with everyone. That's a paraphrase. And that's not hard, to live at peace with everyone. And that includes those people that are in your family. So when we think about that, Austin, what are some thoughts that come to your mind?
Yeah, it is definitely a challenge to live at peace with everyone. I think that's why it says, if at all possible. There's going to be work involved with that. But I think about, Thanksgiving and Christmas situations. Forgiveness is a really big part of how you live at peace with people. And I always say, forgive quickly, forgive often.
Yeah.
And that is kind of what I take into certain situations.
I'm going to ask you a tough question now.
Yeah, here it is. I have to be careful with some of this.
I set you up.
Okay.
Does forgiveness equal reconciliation?
That's a good question. It definitely can. I think forgiveness is a multi-layered discussion, right? There is forgiveness that takes a long time to get to that place of reconciliation, for sure. Like for me, my dad left when I was young. It took many, many years for me to get to a place where I could say, I forgive him, I love him. Now, when I think of forgive quickly, forgive often, that's what I take into certain situations where there might be someone who's challenging, and I know it's going to be challenging. Like we don't see eye to eye on everything or anything at all. And I think of the verse from James 1 where it says, just, be slow to speak, quick to listen, slow to speak. And so take that into Thanksgiving and Christmas as you will. But yeah, as far as reconciliation, I think forgiveness is a process most of the time. And so if you're constantly forgiving, which with some people in some relationships, that's the reality. You're going to have to forgive them possibly every week you see them or interact with them, and it's building that muscle of forgiveness almost, right? So I think reconciliation is a process for sure.
Yeah, I would say, I think you're right. I would say forgiveness doesn't even have to involve the other person. It's a little bit different, right? So, your dad has passed. Sometimes life situation or boundaries or whatever you want to call it get in the way of that conversation of forgiveness. But I can choose to let go of a situation or a relationship or to forgive that person whether or not they're in the room. Now, reconciliation, I think it's a different thing. I think reconciliation, you probably need the other person in the room
to know.
Yeah, to know, to find a different path forward, to try to work through out whatever that is. So I think that's the difference. Forgiveness, I don't necessarily need the other person in the room. It's definitely helpful if it's possible. But I think this is what Peter's asking Jesus about: how often do I have to forgive my brother when they sin against me? And Jesus says, you forgive them until you don't need to forgive them anymore.
Yep.
And I think that has a lot to do with our heart, because we can say a lot of things and then inside our heart, we're still angry, we're still bitter, we're still locked up, however you want to word it. And sometimes we can figure that out, and sometimes we can't. Sometimes those relationships are super toxic, or they're unhealthy, or there's distance, or even there's death involved. And so we need to figure out how to forgive often that way. And reconciliation is different. It's, okay, I want to continue to do life with you. And so how do we do that together?
Yeah, and I've had conversations of reconciliation, and I still have to continue to forgive them.
That's true too.
Honestly. And those were very, very hard conversations with lots of tears and
Yeah.
all the above. But yeah, forgiveness forgiving somebody often does not mean that there's not boundaries,
Right.
right? There has to be boundaries, especially when there's trauma involved, or the person isn't treating you correctly,
Right.
or your family, or whatever it might be. It's that one uncle that's
Yeah.
saying these crazy things and
Yeah.
hurting people, or whatever it might be. You still have to have boundaries with forgiveness.
Yeah, I think this is something that you have to do prayerfully. I think if you can walk through these types of relationships with a friend or a counselor that can help you make wise decisions, because it's hard to know, if I re-engage this person, is it going to hurt me more? And so how do you go into those conversations from a healthy standpoint, not just go into them, but you want to come out healthy too.
Right.
And so lots of prayer, and we try to stay. I started the message off by saying we're trying to tackle some of this from a 30,000-foot view. Don't know everybody's situation. I don't know everybody's family background. I don't know what's going on. I don't know the words that have been said, either from yourself or from somebody else. And so we're talking about conflict in a very general term, but it's such a serious term. We do want you to examine your peace in that, that conflict.
We want to live in right relationship with people, and especially our family. But it's not easy. And I think the holidays highlight that sometimes. I think it's really important for us as we move towards the Christmas season, just that we keep our focus on Jesus.
Right.
We keep our focus on his ways. There are going to be times where we just need to approach a relationship with humility, and maybe we do just need to be quiet. There's a great book that I read a while back called Unoffendable. I forget the author's name, but you can check it out. It's called Unoffendable, and it really walks through a lot of this, a lot of what we're talking about, where it's talking about forgiving often, being quick to listen, slow to speak, and just taking the approach of I'm going to choose to be unoffendable, right? And that is not easy in our culture. That's not easy just in our human nature. But if you can walk through life thinking that way, you will actually have more peace in your life. And I think that's pretty valuable. And all of that comes from the teachings and the way of Jesus.
Yeah, and I think it's not just having peace in your life, but it's bringing peace towards others as well. So if it's all possible, as far as it depends on you, because you're the only person really in the equation, right? Live at peace with everybody. And so everybody, you're not looking for everybody to be at peace with you. You're trying to be at peace with them. And I think if we're that person of peace for our culture, it matters a lot. And I think as Christ followers, that's what we want to aim for, because Jesus has brought peace to all of us as well.
Totally. And I mean, be the leader in the room. Be the leader in the room and bring the peace of Christ with you.
That's
right?
a good word.
And just know that you're gonna be offended by something. Like, prepare your heart for it. Say, Holy Spirit, help me with this. And just walk in there and lead with peace. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, not easy by any means, but
probably don't pray that out loud at Thanksgiving.
If it's at all possible, try that.
Yeah, that's right. Don't walk into the house on Thanksgiving Day and say, "Hey, I know you guys are all going to offend me. I'm going to choose to not be offended today. Let's have a great day." Don't start that way.
Don't do that. No.
Oh man, well, we want to keep our eyes focused on Christ. Can you just give us? I know we've talked about the worship night and kind of your EP coming up. Would you just let people know what's happening this weekend with our worship?
Yeah, we have a worship night coming up this Sunday. It's at the Foxworthy campus. It's going to be a great time of worship. We're really going to be focusing in on the topic of gratitude as we move towards, obviously, Thanksgiving, and we're going to intro the Christmas season. Everything about the Christmas season for us at Community Christian is based around the idea of glory to the King. We want our minds and our hearts to be set and focused on Christ, because it's all about him. And when we focus on Jesus, when we give glory to him, we can actually have that peace, the hope, the joy, and the love that he brings.
That's awesome. Yeah, so that's November 17th, 2024. So if you're watching this 10 years from now, yeah.
Well, maybe we're doing it again in 2025. We don't know that.
I don't know when you're watching this. So
maybe there's a Christmas EP part 2.
That's
right.
I don't know.
And it's available now.
Who knows? If you're watching this 30 years from now, praise God. I hope hopefully it's still a blessing to you. We are excited about what God's doing in our community at Community Christian. We are so glad that you are watching and connecting, and we hope to see you this Sunday at one of our campuses. God bless you.
God bless you.